Hello, hello. Hello, happy Wednesday. How are you all doing? Oh, there she is. What's Instagram doing?
Hi
Oh, there
there.
she is. Hi. How are
I'm
you?
doing good. How are
I'm
you?
doing well. I'm doing well. You look amazing.
Well, let me tell you, I had on a black sweater and my daughter just came in my room and she's like, "What are you wearing? Mommy, you need to put something bright on." And so she changed me.
I was running late from work, so I had to get out of the work. I just threw on something, but you look really nice and
Well,
bright. She's right. Looks good.
thank you. Thank you.
I think this is your first time on Literary Wind Down. We
Before.
talked
Now, I'm not quite
because
sure.
Yellow Wife was the Diverse Spines February pick in 2021. And then we talked again for Loyalty Books for the paperback release for Yellow Wife. Yes.
Okay, so
So
this is
welcome to Literary.
officially
And here's
my
the
first
sad
time here.
part. I have to make this announcement early on, is that I gave up wine for Lent before,
Mm.
and I didn't even think that I was having this event. So we're gonna circle back at some point and toast and cheers to it. But I do have like a nice little mocktail. But if you have a wine, please let us know what you're winding down with.
I'm actually winding down with
Oh,
water.
good. Oh, good, good,
Because
good.
I have not
Wonderful.
been drinking enough water. I feel like I've been traveling a bunch and just being in and out of the planes and the hotels and automobiles. I just haven't been drinking enough water. So I'm
Good. This is my first time on Literary Wine Down without wine. So forgive me. I will drop in some wine recommendations as it's getting warmer. But let me do the intro. Sadiqa, what I'm going to do is have you like tell a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just, oh, people are saying they're drinking for us. Good. If you're having something, a cocktail or a wine, you know how we do it. We drop it in the comments so I can see what you all are winding down with. So welcome to Literary Wind Down. I am Janice Harper, the bookstagrammer behind Spines and Vines, and I'm also the founder of Diverse Spines. I am happy to have with me, I love to say this, New York Times best-selling author, Sadeqa Johnson. Yes,
yes.
yes, congratulations.
Thank you so
So
much.
before we dive into letting you tell us a little bit about yourself, how does it feel to say New York Times best-selling author?
Every time I get like this flutter going through my body, when you just said it, I could feel it in my belly. Like it just feels, I mean, if there was a word stronger than amazing, that is how it feels. Yes.
It's so awesome. I mean, I literally, when I found out, I screamed.
Aww.
I mean, I don't think there's been anyone on a woman, a Black woman, since it's been a while.
It's been a while. You know, Robert Jones Jr., the author of The Prophet, sent me a message and he was like, "Oh my gosh." He was like, "You are the first Black woman, Black American woman, to be on the list in over a year.
Yeah.
Easy."
He's
Yeah.
the one that told me. He sent me a text message and said, "Oh my gosh, you made the list." Listen,
Yeah.
congratulations. So let me talk about you did an Instagram post talking about a vision board and something that you always wanted. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've always had a vision board for as long as I can remember. I mean, just going back years and years and years. And when I first started, I did sort of the traditional board where I would have a big poster and I would go through magazines and I would cut out pictures and words and things that I wanted to manifest. And so recently, I've sort of gotten a little bit more like, okay, I don't need to go the picture route. My words are powerful. You know, the power of my
I
pen is
like that.
powerful. So now what I do for my vision board is I have a big poster, but I use a marker and I separate my board into three slots. So one slot is work and career and the things that I want to manifest. And then the other one is sort of like personal, the things that I personally want for myself that's outside of work.
Mhm.
And then there's a section for my family. So like healthy family, you know, God-fearing children,
Right.
and, you know, that sort of thing, vacations to exotic places. So that's sort of how I break my board down. And when things manifest, I will go and take a highlighter and I highlight it so that I could see all of the things that I manifest. And I say, thank you. What else can I have?
Oh my
So
goodness. So New York Times bestselling author was on
it
this,
was
your
on
work.
there, and I have not highlighted it yet. And I think it's because I'm sort of like still holding on to this
Yes.
moment, you know? And I also have to be in the right space, right? So it can't be rushed. When I'm working with my vision board, when I'm in my space of manifestation, it can't be rushed. It has to be like I am fully present. I have some time to think about it. I might put some music on, something to sort of get me in the mood so that I am connecting with spirit, connecting with my highest self. So I need some time for that.
That is awesome. And I really like that it's with words. I don't think I've ever heard that before. That's really interesting. I've never done a vision board, but you're kind of inspiring me to do one with words.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that.
They work. I mean, if for nothing else, it sort of centers you in what you want, right? Like a lot of times we're like, I want this, I want that, but you got to be intentional about your dreams and you have to be intentional about your vision. And when you take the time to sit down and write it out and you hang it up in a place, mine is hanging in my closet. So I can see it as I'm getting dressed to remind myself, these are the things that I'm trying to bring into my life. Help me get into position. Let me be in the receiving mode so that I can receive those things that I'm trying to manifest.
I love that. I like that a lot. So for people that don't know, let's tell them a little bit about yourself. I mean, I absolutely love this book, but we're going to get into that. But tell them a little bit about yourself and how you came into publishing.
So I started off as a lover of books like you. I was the nerdy kid who was always in the library, although I didn't really consider myself a nerd when I was little. I just thought that I was like, I just like to read, right? Now the kids are like, you nerd, you geek.
Right.
But I just was a girl who loved to read. And so I went to the library all the time. I checked books out. The library was sort of the hangout spot in my neighborhood, you know? So I started off as a lover of reading. And then I got into acting. So I was going to school for theater and I went to college as a theater major. And there I started working on, you know, plays and screenplays and poetry. I went to school in New York City.
Okay.
So it was this whole hot poetry scene. We used to go to Nuyorican Cafe and put African head wraps on and red lipstick and, you know, get on stage and perform our words talking real slick.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, yeah. So that was all the move in the 90s when I was in college. So did that and then got my first job out of college working for a publishing company. I worked at Scholastic Books. And it was sort of there working in publishing that I thought, wow, I'm surrounded by all these books. I love to read. I've been fooling around with writing. Maybe I should give this novel thing a try.
Yeah. And so this is your fifth novel.
Fifth novel, yes.
Okay, so if you guys didn't know that this is her fifth novel, Backlist, you want to go back and read some Backlist. And so people, I think would you say that Yellow Wife is kind of like what put you on the scene for more people to, you know, find out about you?
I think so. My first three novels were contemporary fiction. And my first novel, actually, I couldn't even get a publishing deal. So my husband and I started a publishing company ourselves. And we put that book out and literally went up and down the East Coast. And I was hand selling books to people, trying to get people interested. And then my second two novels, you know, they had some notoriety. People started to put me on notice, but I think it takes a while for an author to become your automatic buy, right? Like now people are putting me, saying to me like, you're my automatic buy, right? I was like, oh, I never even knew that was a thing, right? Until recently.
No matter what they sort of put out, you're going to buy it. Yes.
Yeah, so it takes a while. So that second and that third novel sort of started the little spark, right? And then I think Yellow Wife sort of fanned the flame and then sort of put people on notice of who I was and of my work.
I said this to you before, like when Yellow Wife came out, I was like, okay, I don't know if I want to read another, but it was amazing. I loved it. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to like this author because you get historical fiction. Like you catapult. I mean, the research, you put us there in the moment. which brings me to, look how tattered my book, I'm sorry, but here's a retro. So let's talk about The House of Eve. This book is so good. The audiobook is fantastic.
I just finished listening to the audiobook myself actually yesterday. They did a wonderful job.
So good. And I think it's been a long time probably since like The Personal Librarian, that I've actually like been so enthralled with an audiobook. Because sometimes you can just listen and not really get into it, but I just could not stop listening to this book. And so my first question is, what was your inspiration? Because I know what the authors know. What an author's note. And we're doing no spoilers, because a lot of people DM me and said, oh my God, I just started. I said, no spoilers.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
Yeah.
But let's talk about your inspiration for this book. Pretty powerful.
Well, after I, Yellow Wife went out into the world and it did all the beautiful things that it did, I actually had this moment of thinking like, wow, this was the best that I have to offer. Like, this is the best. This is my absolute best. And how do you better your best? Right. And so that was a little bit scary. I'm thinking like, wow, what do I do now? So I was thinking about thinking I was just going to switch genres, that I wasn't going to stick with historical fiction. I was thinking I was going to go write young adult books. I don't know. That's what I thought. And so I started sketching out these characters, and there was one character that just kept walking through my mind, and her name was Ruby. She was 15. She was smart. She had a body shaped like a Coca-Cola bottle. And Ruby had a mother who wished she had never been born.
Yes.
So those were the things that I knew. And being unwanted by your mother was something that I had experience with. My grandmother told me that she had been the black sheep of our family. She got pregnant with my mom at 14 and had her at 15. It was the early 1950s, and she did not have a husband, nor did she have a husband in sight. And so there was a lot of shame and secrecy around my mother's birth. And then my mother told me that she didn't know my grandmother was her actual mother until she was in the 3rd grade. Up until that point, it had never been openly discussed. And it really got me thinking about motherhood and mother and daughter relationships, and the shame that women in the earlier days faced when they became pregnant out of wedlock. And so I thought, what options were available to my grandmother during this time period? Like, what were the options for her? And that was sort of the what if question that started the story. And it got me on this little research spiral that connected me with these homes for unwed mothers, these maternity homes.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you about your research, because, let me back up. The story takes place dual timelines in Philadelphia and Washington, D.C.
Well, dual perspectives, same timelines.
Yes. Timelines. Yes. Sorry. Same timelines, dual perspectives. Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. And I've learned a lot about the homes for unwed mothers. I did not know this. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's an aspect of the book that I didn't know anything about.
Yeah, it was something that, it was very easy for me to come across. When I think I put in Google, like, what did women do in the 50s if they got pregnant? I don't even know like how it happened, but it was a Google search, and all of these articles came up. And so these homes, these maternity homes, these homes for unwed women were largely homes where young girls or early women in their 20s, if they got pregnant and they weren't married, they went into these homes, they had their babies, and they left the babies there, put them up for adoption, and they went back to their lives as if nothing ever happened. And so that's sort of the first look at the homes. Between 1943 and 1975, 1.5 million babies were born in these maternity homes.
Wow.
Yes. But when I pull back the veil a little bit, I realized that it's not just that simple, right? And so these girls oftentimes were forced into the homes, either by their families or well-meaning people. They were not treated well, oftentimes in the homes. And if they changed their mind once the baby was born, they were forced, they were coerced, they were told that they would go to jail if they didn't give their baby up, because this was before IVF. And so if there was a family, a husband and wife that wanted to have a baby, really this was their only option. And so these girls didn't really have a voice or choice, which is why I wanted to write about the homes.
And then on the flip side, we talk about, I know just in Black communities, you know, the girls were either sent to the family, other families, go down south.
Go down south, yes.
Go down south. And the baby would be raised by another family member. It would be a cousin, or it'd be brought up as a sibling. So, you know, you talked about that as well.
Yeah, that was usually the case. So as I was doing the research, there was a book that I read called The Girls Who Went Away. And the author, she interviewed like 100 women in these maternity homes, and she detailed their stories. And I couldn't find a single Black woman in any of these stories. So I sent her an email, and she said exactly what you said. Black women usually went down south, or they had the baby and they dealt with the shame. These maternity homes were largely for white women because white babies were the hot commodity, right? And so this is why these homes, but I kept thinking, yeah, there has to be a way to tell the story that I want to tell, with Black women at the center of the story, ambitious, shamed, in trouble. There had to be another way to tell the story. And that all led me to Eleanor.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. You said Ruby came first to you, and then Eleanor. And so how did Eleanor come to you? Because let's talk about them. You know, you said Ruby came first, but what did you want to like explore or reveal with these characters? Because they're very dynamic women.
Yeah. Well, with Ruby, I wanted to show the ambition of women who are born in poverty, and you don't have a choice. I think Ruby at one point says, I'd rather be unhappy than be poor, right? And that is the reality for a lot of us. We would rather be unhappy than be poor, because being poor is the hardest thing to overcome, right? And so I wanted to show someone who had the odds stacked against them, didn't have the family support, but she was smart. And she had to rely on herself to sort of pull herself up out, you know, by her bootstraps. And she, you know, her dreams are upended. She falls in love, and it's a very unlikely gentleman that she falls for. And, you know, you're sort of rooting for them, and you're sort of not rooting for them. And
yeah. And so then we have, let's talk about Eleanor, because she has a different situation.
And Eleanor was a character that came pretty late. She was not in my original thoughts when I was writing the book. I thought it was just Ruby's story. Well, I was sitting in my office one day, and I could just feel this presence come over me. And it was rageful, and it was angry, and it was desperate. And it was Eleanor saying, I need your help. I need to have a baby. And I remember thinking like, okay, well, what do I do with this information? So I sort of jotted everything down and put it to the side. But that weekend, I watched The Pieces I Am by Toni Morrison, her beautiful documentary. And in the documentary, she says that she didn't know that Black folks separated themselves by color until she stepped foot, until she stepped foot on Howard University's campus. She was from Ohio. She said, you know, in the Midwest, Black folks were so busy trying to get along with each other, they didn't have time to pit themselves against each other. And I thought, well, what if that happened to Eleanor? You know, how would that play out? And what would Howard University feel and look like for her?
And so what research did you do for this? Because I want to talk about that. You talked about, you said, honestly, she hadn't even known that Negroes separated themselves by color until she stepped into the all-Negro University campus a year ago. So colorism within the African-American community. You know, here she is, this is not giving anything away, but she's at a function where she thinks everyone there is white. And they're not. Because they're talking not negatively about, you know, Black people. And they're actually very bright-skinned Black people. Talk about that.
Yeah,
That
well,
was a good
I
time.
was reading that scene actually. I was reading Our Kind of People by Lawrence Otis Graham. And in his book, he describes a wedding where either him, I can't remember specifically, it was either him or a friend, he's telling the story of her going to this wedding and looking around and thinking that it's all white people at the wedding, but then realize like, oh no, these are white faced colored folks, you
Mhm.
know? And I thought, my goodness, what does that look and feel like, you know, when you walk into a situation like that? So I just really needed to explore that in the story. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of the story when she's there and she has no idea, you know. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Someone said you are an amazing researcher. I agree.
Thank you.
Historical fiction, I think, not that you can't do anything else, but I'm just saying historical fiction is your, you
Yeah.
right. Someone said sororities in the sororities in the day practice colorism. Well, that's an aspect of the book too, because she tries to get into a sorority and
Yeah.
she
Yeah, and she does not have hair straight as a ruler, and her skin is not lighter than a paper bag. And, you know, this is all leftover baggage from slavery
yes.
that we saw in Yellow Wife, and now we see it plays out in the House of Eve.
Yeah, because I thought at first when it came out it was a sequel, but I think a lot of the themes carry over. I'm not, you know.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Um, let's talk about the men that they love.
Hmm.
Uh, let's talk about them, William and Shimmy. And so they fall in love with these two men, and like you said, we're rooting for them. And then there are times when we're not rooting for them.
Hmm.
And so let's talk about how you came to talk about these two men.
Yeah, well, Shimmy actually. So I, in my own story, yeah, in my own story, my grandmother and my grandfather did not marry, right? And it was because, and of course, when I say because, these are my interpretations, these are my memories, these are
Yes.
what I think,
Mhm.
right? But it was that he was my grandfather was very light skinned, and he was from one side of North Philadelphia, the better side, and my grandmother was mahogany brown, and she was from another part of North Philly, and it was a little bit, you know, a little bit seedier and that sort of thing. And so, like oil and water in the Black community, these two were not supposed to mix in the 50s. And so I was talking the story out with my daughter one day, the same one who told me to put the yellow shirt on,
Yes.
and I need her.
You,
She's going to
you
college
need her.
next year.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm going to do, but so I'm in the car with her and I'm talking out the story, and I'm like, yeah, so I guess her love interest should be really light skinned. And she said, no, mommy, make him Italian. You have to up the ante. And so I thought, okay, but I look at the demographics of Philadelphia during that time. And if I was writing about South Philadelphia, then Italian would have been appropriate. But this was North Philadelphia. And I found that Blacks and Jewish people lived in close proximity. They did commerce together, they did business, they lived side by side. And so I decided to make him the landlord's son. And they meet in a very interesting way, and some wonderful things happen.
Yes. And then we go to William Pride. What a name.
Mm-hmm.
I love his name. And he's very wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
Black elite family in Washington, D.C., and he meets Eleanor. Uh,
Who stumbles in and doesn't know about colorism or upper echelon Black
no.
folks. This is all a brand new experience for her. And when William first came to me, it was his back. You know,
Somebody said the back.
yes, Mr. Back. And I remember, like, I don't know, I get little vignettes in my head of my characters. And
Mm-hmm.
so the very first time I saw him, he was sitting in the library, bent over books with a really nice sweater, and she just is admiring his back. And you know, they have their ups and downs, and they're very different from very two different places. But again, you know, we are rooting for them, and I really love writing, you know, historical fiction, but also having a love component. I
Yeah.
think in order for it all to work, there has to be love at the center of my stories.
And there's many aspects of motherhood in your book. Let's break that down, because I want to talk about the mothers of the boys, the men, because they're thinking that they're protecting their best interests for their children, and how Ruby is abandoned by her mom. And then Eleanor feels like she has to be a mother. Only thing that's going to make everything right in her world if she's a mom.
Yeah.
And so
there's a lot of layers to motherhood in this story. And
a lot.
I think about it in this way, that to realize in my lifetime that all mothers are really just doing the best they can in that moment, right? And so it may not be what the child wants. It may not be what other people sees as correct. But in the moment, the mother is doing exactly what she thinks is the very best for her child. And so I wanted to show that on all levels. The mothers of the boys are very protective. They are, and I have a son, so I think about this often. They are very specific about the legacy that they want their sons to leave, and who they want them to be with, and what it's supposed to look like, and how you keep our legacy, our name, our family's interest going forward. Yeah. They think they're doing the very best.
But we're not like that with our girls, are we?
I mean, I think that we probably do give the girls a little bit more leeway, but maybe that's up to their daddies, right?
Right.
Like maybe that's up to their dads to say, this guy is not,
exactly,
not me. This guy is not me. Because really, that's what we're saying to the women, right? This woman you pick, son, is not me. She is not to my level. She is not, she is not type A like me. She is not going to handle the business of your family the way you need it to be handled. So please go find somebody more like me. That's what we're saying.
It did make me think, because you wrote them so vividly, right? Both of the moms. And they came from different, they both different backgrounds, but they both were thinking that they were protecting protecting their child. And I wonder, if I was in this position, would I react the same way? So it really makes you question yourself. Well, at least it made me question myself, reading how they were acting and the things that they were doing and saying. Rose.
Yeah. It's funny because Rose's character, Rose is William Pride's mother. I was talking to my husband's aunt, who is not quite that age, but a few years younger, but could still get the feel of it. And she was really good about that's what they said. And they would just say it at that time period. There was no, sugarcoating it. They would just say it. And so I think that's how I got Rose. She just said it because that's what they did during that time, So I tried to honor that.
Oh my goodness. So what was the journey for you as an author, you already talked about, being a little bit intimidated because you gave your very best for Yellow Wife, but how did you grow from writing Yellow Wife to writing The House of Eve?
Well, every novel I try to grow, do something different with craft, right? So with Yellow Wife, it was all first person. It was all Phoebe's point of view. So I was kind of always in her world as I moved through the story. And it's not easy to do that because you have to sort of show everything that's going on through just this one character. With The House of Eve, when I realized that it was Ruby and Eleanor's story, because I was going to do the same thing. I thought it's going to be Ruby's story. I'll write it, kind of similar, but not the same. But it wasn't. That wasn't it. It was these two characters. And I thought, okay, how do I tell their story? Well, Ruby came to me in first person. She was up close. She was in my face. I felt like I was Ruby walking through the story. Okay. When Eleanor came to me, she was a little bit distant. So there was a little space between us. And so that was third person point of view. And I thought, well, maybe I'll write Ruby in first person and Eleanor in third person. I had not done that before. Not sure how it's going to fly. Not sure how it's going to be received. But this is what I'm feeling. So let me let me do that. So that was something that I had to figure out and learn. When I was writing their stories, I had to write each story separate.
Oh,
So it
okay.
was, yeah. So the book is 4 parts. Again, something I had not done before. I've only done 3 parts. So this is my first time doing a 4-part book. So the book is 4 parts. And so what I would do is that for part 1, I would write Ruby from beginning to end. And then I would put her to the side. And then I would write Eleanor part 1 from beginning to end. And then I would look at the 2 stories and figure out how I always think of hair, right? Because that's what we, hair. So how do you braid this together and make it seamless and let it make sense? A nice, neat braid. So I had to figure out what the access points between Ruby and Eleanor's story so that I could sort of braid each chapter together to make it make sense. And so I would do that for part 1, put it to the side, and then I went back and I did the same thing for part 2.
Ah, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very interesting. So what do you desire? What do you want readers to take away from this novel? I ask every one of my guests this, what do you want them to take away from reading your book?
I want them to take away, the impossible decisions that we women have made over the history of our lives, over generations. It's always difficult choices, but still we rise, right? So we have to go through all of these different moments of turmoils, but still we rise. I also feel like we stand on the shoulders of strong women. Like you could feel the strength of our ancestors in this story.
Yes.
It is never lost on me that I get to sit here with you and do this and be a New York Times bestseller and write 5 novels because of the strength of my grandmothers. Right. I stand on their shoulders, They did not have the resources that I have. They had to work. They couldn't say, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to have a child. What? You quit your job because you had a baby? Right. And I'm going to write a novel.
I'm going to write a novel.
I'm going to write a novel, And so it's not lost on me that I get to do that because of the strength and the sacrifice that they have made, right? And the things that they've instilled in me. And so we stand on the shoulders of strong women, strong ancestors. And if they could overcome these situations that they do in the House of Eve, then we could really do anything, Also, we're still dealing with the same stuff.
Yes, we are. The racism, just everything we are still dealing with the same stuff. So that in itself is kind of like, goodness me. You're writing in 1950s and here we are in 2023 and it's the same stuff. Questions. This is something someone said, thank you for writing such a beautiful story. So many deep connections. Someone earlier said that you took your time with this. It was a page turner. So how long did it take you to write The House of Eve?
It's funny because out of all 5 of my novels, I think The House of Eve came the quickest to me. And I think it was because this was the first time that I decided that I needed to go away to write. So I needed to sort of like pack up my computer and go into the mountains or the wilderness or wherever and spend a week here, a week there, and just tunnel vision on these characters. It was really that I think made things flow the way it did. I'm really glad that I did that. I think that's the way I'm going to write books going forward. No distraction.
The first one was written at home, right?
Yes, completely written at home, lots of distractions. So Yellow Wife took about 2.5 years. And I would say The House of Eve probably was more like a year and a half.
Did the thoughts for The House of Eve come while writing the Yellow Wife, or was it completely after?
Towards the end. So when I get towards the end of the novel that I'm working on, I start thinking about what the next book is going to be. So it always comes towards the end. And so like when you're turning your pages into your editor, sometimes you have like 2 or 3 weeks in between while you're waiting for them to send it back. And so in those 2 to 3 weeks, I would start kind of fooling around, thinking about these characters, sketching them out, that sort of thing.
So that means that you have something sketched out already for the next book.
Yes, I have a little sketch. It's funny because I have not been writing because the House of Eve has been taking up all my time, and I'm okay with that. The baby, yeah, this baby needs me right now. But my but I had a thought today, and it felt really good. I was thinking about, because I have these characters that I'm thinking about, so they're always with me whether I'm writing or not. And so today it was my parents are divorced, but it was my parents' wedding anniversary, and for whatever reason I always remember, and in my heart I always celebrate it, because if not that, then I wouldn't be here, right? So thank you, parents. So I always have this little celebration in my heart, and as I was thinking about them, it sort of made me think about these two characters, and I started jotting something down, and I'm like, look at me, I wasn't even planning on writing today, but I got like a page down, like not too much, but a little something. So all that to say, I do have an idea for my next novel. It is another historical, so I'm sure you'll be excited about that.
Yes, I will be excited about that for sure. It's my favorite genre. Historical fiction is my favorite.
So it is historical. I have discovered a woman who I think people don't know who she is and what she did, and she has made a tremendous sacrifice and contribution to us and to people. So I don't want to give too much away, but
give anything away.
But she set me on fire. So I'm thinking about her, and I'm thinking about these cast of characters and how to bring it all together and make it work. But yeah, so I'm just in the very beginning stages. I'm like in the outline phases of the story.
And so you said, speaking of someone that, people don't know anything about, in your author's note, you talk about Dorothy Porter Wesley. And so can you please share about her? Because one thing that I really was drawn to in the story was Eleanor, her job, working as archivist in the library, preserving Black stories, learning along the way, and she could feel the ancestors while she's doing her job. I love that aspect of the book. And here we find out about Dorothy Porter Wesley. And so can you talk about her?
Yeah. So Dorothy Porter Wesley was an amazing find. As I was researching the House of Eve, I knew that Eleanor worked in the library, but it wasn't until I got her in the library that I found the real life person, Dorothy Porter Wesley. And she was an archivist. She amassed the largest collection of African, Black, Caribbean, African American art, artifacts, pamphlets, letters, diaries, music, all of that over a 40-year time period. She was known as the shopping bag lady because she was known to root around in people's basements and dusty attics. She said that the untrained eye couldn't see what some of these treasures were, but they were a part of our history. She didn't have a lot of money for what she called her collection. So she had friends in different places across the country. People made donations. People would keep an eye out for things and send them to her. So now it is the largest collection of Black culture. It is housed at Howard University in the Moreland Spingarn Research Center, which is where she worked. And she had a problem with the Dewey Decimal System, because the Dewey Decimal System only had two classifications that had anything to do with Black people. It was slavery and colonization. And I think in the book I say, Dewey Decimal System be damned, right? And I can't remember if that was a direct quote or if I made that up, but whenever I think of Dorothy Porter, I think of that sentence. But she created space in the Dewey Decimal System so that you could see all of our lives and not just those two classifications. So she was an unsung hero that I felt I didn't know about until I did the research. And I thought, whenever I can write about a real person and give them their flowers, that is always what I strive to do. So she was a real pleasure to work with.
I think that's the thing one of the things I love the most about historical fiction, because, you do learn. You find, I find out about people that I otherwise would not know anything about other than reading a history book.
Which is not nearly as fun.
No, not at all. Not at all. So you already told us that you're got an idea about something. So how, I know you probably can't talk too much about it, but what was it like finding out that you were going to be, this book was going to be your Reese book pick?
Wow. Well, that was amazing in itself. I would say start so far in advance. The celebrity book picks is so far. So I remember May of last year, I was planning to go on vacation, and I turned my manuscript in and thought like, okay, you work on that. I'm going on vacation. My husband and I were celebrating 20 years of marriage in June of last year. Thank you. And so we had this big trip planned. We were going to celebrate ourselves. And a week before I go, my editor calls me and she's like, hey, we have a couple of celebrity book club scouts that are interested in the House of Eve. Would you be able to turn this next draft around like in 2 weeks, which meant I would have to write on my blissful honeymoon vacation with my husband. And so I thought, but yes, of course I'll do it. Right. And so every day I got up a little earlier and I would write in the morning, and then we would still have our day for the vacation. And so I get back, I turn the manuscript in, and I just don't think about it anymore. Well, like end of September, early October, my editor's like, hey, could you pop on a Zoom call with us? And when I say I'm just looking crazy, like I'm home, I have on like a t-shirt, my hair is like whatever. And so I'm like, all right, fine, I'll just jump on, whatever. I get on, and it is my editors, it's my agents, it's like some other people from Simon and Schuster, and I'm thinking, wow, what's all these people here for? And then she says, we want to let you know that the House of Eve was selected for Reese Witherspoon's book club. She said, but the caveat is we have to move the book from March to February. Are you okay with that? And I'm thinking, that's not a caveat
at all.
At all. If Reese wanted me to publish the book next week, we could do that too, you know? So that is not an issue. So that was it. And you just have to sit with it. You can't tell anybody. I was able to tell my husband. So he was home at the time because we both work from home. And so they're like, go get him. So he's on the video and I'm telling him, you know, that I was a pig. So it was wonderful, but we had to keep it a secret for like months, but I could also plan, right? So I know that this pick is going to change my life. Yes. I know that it's going to put me on a larger platform. So knowing it so far in advance gave me time to work on my website and think about what my social media campaign and figure out my newsletter and all of those things, so that when the news hit, I have everything fired up on all cylinders.
Right. I mean, it was so awesome. Congratulations. I mean, the reach was wide for this book, which is great. I mean, it's amazing. And you have all types of people reading these stories.
Which is so good.
Women.
Yes. I mean, seeing it, I was just right before I got on the call with you. So seeing it on the New York Times bestsellers list, right? And so I go and I look at it, and I'm looking at all the books, and it's like, first of all, there are no other books on the New York Times bestsellers list that has a person. And there's definitely not a Black woman.
Yes.
So there is a Black woman cover on the New York Times bestsellers list. Like the cover, like it just doesn't get any better than that.
It doesn't. And I didn't even think of it that way until you said it. But yes, I mean, I know the books by, you know, about Black women by a Black woman, but I didn't even think about that. The cover,
because I mean, so many times in you know, just in publishing, it is really hard for covers with Black people on them to do well. Yeah. Like that's just what it is, right? Mm-hmm. And we you know, and so it's just, I mean, it's just a wonderful, proud moment.
And whose idea was it for this cover?
So the art department always comes with different rounds of ideas. So whenever I get the first round, I'm always like, oh my gosh, this is going to be terrible, because it's like, you know what you have in your head and it never matches their vision. So like it takes a couple of rounds to get to the cover. So we did about 4 rounds before we got to this cover. And it's a combination. It's the art department, it's editorial, it's sales, it's my agent, it's me, it's everybody sort of weighing in to try and find the best representation of this book.
And you knew what you wanted in your mind.
I did not. I'm looking at the cover right now, and I can't say 100% that that's what was in my head.
Okay.
I think I had a roundabout idea, and then we just started layering it.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely picks up the essence of the book, though.
Yeah, because you don't, I mean, it's two girls, but that could be Eleanor, that could be Ruby,
Yes,
you know? It could be the House of Eve, it could be Howard University.
I thought it was, I definitely thought of campus. But here's the thing, when I first saw it, I said, why'd they cut her head off? This is before I even, started reading. I said, why'd they cut the lady's head off? And then once you get in, you're like, oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. And I always, I don't think any of my covers have faces. And I will say for me, it's because I want your imagination to be able to picture who you think Phoebe is, who you think Eleanor is, who you think Ruby is. I don't want to cloud that with a face. Like your imagination is going to be way better than anything we can come up with. So I really like to sort of leave it to the reader.
Yes. It's very well done. You have a good one on your hands. I mean, it's like both of them. I mean, I have to backlist now. Yeah. I got to backlist to see what you were writing.
Yeah, you got to go back and write. You got to go back to my contemporary fiction. I would say if you go back, and I don't like to pick favorites. I don't. Okay. But Second House from the Corner, which is my second novel. That's my first one published by a major publishing house. That one is near and dear to my heart. So the House of Eve is my maternal grandmother. And then I would say Second House from the Corner is stories that my paternal grandmother told me. And I was able to weave some of that stuff in. So it's just, that book is near and dear to my heart as well.
Okay, so you guys heard it.
I would say, yes, Second House from the Corner. If you're going to go back and read some contemporary fiction, start with that one.
Okay, good. And before I let you go, I always ask my guests to give me 5 books to put in a time capsule. We're opening this time capsule, I don't know, 30 years from now. And so what 5 books would you put in the time capsule?
My goodness.
It could be anything, whatever you want.
Wow. Why didn't you prepare me for this question?
I don't want to prepare people because it would be too, I want them off the top of their head, whatever they want to do it.
Okay. So I'm thinking Their Eyes Were Watching God.
Okay.
Neil Hurston. Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings.
Okay.
So those would be my 2 sort of like history back in the day authors, authors who are not alive. Goodness gracious, 5?
Mm-hmm. That's the hard part.
It is. Okay.
Your book is already, we make the assumption that your books are already in the time capsule. So
the other one would be Mama by Terry McMillan.
Okay.
Because that was the first story that I saw. Yeah, that's the first book I saw myself in. That was the first time I saw myself on the page. Okay. I feel like we need something a little spiritual, like The 7 Spiritual Laws by Deepak Chopra, because we're going to need something to sort of keep us grounded.
Yes.
All right, so we're at 4, right? Yes. I need one more.
Mm-hmm.
The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Oh.
Yeah, we need a little spirituality. So when we get there, we got something we can look into. So we got a little fiction.
This is good. And I say this every time. I've been extremely busy, so I haven't updated the Google Sheet with all of the authors' choices. I promise I'm going to do it this weekend.
Okay.
I know people in the office like, oh, here she goes again, but I'm going to do it this weekend. I'm going to update it. Definitely. So I hope that we see like a mini series.
I like that.
This will make a great mini series.
I like limited, what is it called? Premium limited series. Let's goose up the energy. It would be wonderful. Premium limited series on, the right network that's going to be able to do it the way we need to see it done.
Yes.
Yeah.
That. I agree.
Okay.
Wholeheartedly. And you say that you're a reader. What are you reading? Have you found any time to read? I know you've been super busy.
Yeah. So I just got finished listening to my own book. Yes. That was the first time I listened to, I haven't listened to any of the other audios, but I listened to The House of Eve.
Oh,
So I
the
just
Yellow
finished
Wife.
listen. Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
Maybe I will go back and listen to
Yes.
Yellow Wife. Maybe I'm ready. For some reason, right after I finish the book, I'm usually not ready to listen to it. But
Hmm.
The House of Eve, I wanted to hear the narrators. I just today I sampled a couple of audiobooks.
Hmm.
So I think I'm going to start the Lessons in Chemistry because everyone keeps talking about that
Everyone
book.
talks about that.
Everyone's talking about
Hmm.
that. So that I'm looking forward to Brendan Slocum's new book, the author of The Violin
Yes, I
Conspiracy. I
have
finished
that.
that. So I'm looking forward to his new book that comes out in April. I just got Vanessa Riley's new book that's coming out. I get books before,
Yeah.
like you, right? So I'm never really reading what's current. So Vanessa Riley, I have Queen of
Yeah.
Exile, I believe it's called.
Hmm.
So I'm going to read that. That comes out in July. And I'm about to read Christine Pride's new book. And I think that comes out in June.
Got it. I saw
So, yeah.
a Christopher Murphy in here, and I was letting her know that I am reading her book that's coming,
Oh,
First Ladies.
so I just saw her unveiling and I was going to send her a text message to say, Victoria, can you send me a copy of the First Ladies? I
I
can't
want a copy too.
wait. I can't. When I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait. I need that book
It's,
right now.
it's going to be so good. The friendship between Eleanor Roosevelt and Mary McLeod Bethune.
And the
I
way
can't.
Victoria describes it, like it's
Yes.
with so much passion. I
I
can't wait. I can't wait. I'm
can't
so there for
wait.
that.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
So I have the e-galley of that. So I'm excited to start that.
See, and I don't read E. I have to have
It's
the
hard for me to
paper.
get into E. But yeah,
Yeah.
But I'm so excited about this after reading The Personal Librarian that I had to
Yeah.
write this book.
Yeah.
So
That was definitely a top favorite for me as well.
yeah, it has been amazing, amazing to talk to you.
Thank you. It's always good. I love your energy. I love your
Thank
energy.
you.
So thank you for having me.
Yeah. Oh, I know what I forgot to ask. What was the little trinket that's going to come with the House of Eve? Because the oil for the Yellow Wife was amazing.
So let me
I don't
tell
even put you on the
you.
spot.
No.
So for you guys that don't know, they had this oil, this body oil that came with the Yellow Wife. I'm obsessed with that oil. It's so good. It's like a body oil. You can put it. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Okay.
So
Well, I have to send you some more. My husband actually makes those oils. He makes natural products. And so we are like super like oiled and glistened down in the house. So I actually had him make that for the Yellow Wife, but I'll have to make you some for House of Eve as
okay.
well. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes. I will. That'll be my thank you gift to you.
Oh my
I'll get
gosh.
it in the mail to you.
Listen, if it goes up on the website, I'll probably be the first person to purchase it for sure. It smells so good. So
Thank you.
I don't think we had any questions. Nope. Everybody was putting their questions in the comments. So it's all good. But you guys, if you haven't read The House of Eve, please go pick it up. And if you haven't read The Yellow Wife, make sure you read that as well.
Please do. And they go together really well, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Very pretty. Very
Yeah.
pretty. Thank you so much. It was a joy to talk to you, as always.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. And thank you to your wonderful audience for tuning in. It's all, sometimes you're like, does anybody care? And then I see so much love, all of these comments and everything. So you have built such a beautiful and wonderful community. So I thank you for lifting us up. We need you. So thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you
All
guys
right.
for showing up.
Bye. Have a good night.
You too.